What's going on, everybody? It's another beautiful day out here in sunny California, getting ready to kick off the Memorial Day weekend, and I figure what better way than to take one of the cars out, go for a nice drive, and make some videos, talk to every one of you out there and see how everyone is doing. So hopefully your Memorial Day weekend plans aren't too screwed up based of all the pandemic situation we've got right now. Hopefully you can still at least relax and enjoy some of the weekend plans that you'd originally had. So for today's topic, we're going to go ahead and talk about one of my pet peeves, and that has to do with whether or not you can make money on classic cars or just cars in general. I can't tell you how many times I've been to an event and talking to people or seeing forums online, people posting about how you can't make money on cars. And it just blows my mind when people make blatant statements like that, because I've been doing car restorations on classic cars for pretty much my entire life with my dad. So I mean, over 30 years I've been working on cars and flipping cars, and we always make money on the cars that we do. So I mean, to be blunt, if you're not making money on classic cars, you're doing it wrong. I mean, there's no two ways about it, because I can't tell you how many people I know that make money on not only classic cars, but modern cars as well. So I think a large part of the problem is when people start doing like classic car builds and stuff, their original intent when they start building a car isn't focused on making money. Their focus is on building a car that speaks to them and then personalizing it in such a way that it's really unique to that individual, which is great. I mean, that's what the hobby is all about. But if you're looking at it from a business perspective and trying to make money as your goal, that's not how you look at things, because if you do, you're going to be losing money. I mean, I see tons of people dropping a crap load of money on a car restoration and then lose a ton of money when they go and resell it because they made bad decisions from a business perspective. I mean, it's great decisions for your personal choices and preferences and what you wanted out of the car. But again, if your goal is to make money, you got to take that part of the equation out. And perfect examples are like, don't choose cars that have a limited market. Don't make decisions on like paint schemes, interior colors, wheels, and things like that are limiting your market. When I do my restorations, I've done dozens of restorations over the years, and we've made money on virtually every single one of them. There have only been a couple of times where we've lost money on cars, and it's because we've made some poor choices, or because the market changes, or a few factors that are just out of our control, or we just weren't intending on making money on the car in the first place. So again, it was because we want to do it personally. I'm just like this Neon SRT4 and my 72 Challenger. Now, granted, with the Challenger, with what I've got invested in it and what it's currently worth, I would come out ahead, but that was never the intent on that car, because like both the Challenger and the Neon, I don't plan on selling them. I bought them because these cars spoke to me, and there's cars that I want to keep forever. So on the Neon, for example, I'm going to end up spending a lot more money on it in the long run than is ever going to be worth. But it doesn't matter, because I'm not going to get rid of the car. But so let's go ahead and talk about some of the factors that play into decision making for doing your classic car restorations and things to look out for. I mean, they're definitely investment grade cars. I mean, there's no two ways about it. I mean, you can make a crap load of money on the classic car industry. I mean, you see it all the time at the auctions and private sales and stuff. People are making a lot of money, but that's because they've got investment grade cars, or they make the correct decisions when it comes to the restoration. So one of the big rules that my dad has always instilled in me is, when you're doing a classic car restoration, is you don't waste money on aftermarket wheels or aftermarket stereos. And the reason for that is because those are two things that the new owner are typically going to replace first. It's going to be the wheels and the stereo, because those are easy things to change to personalize the car to their taste. So you don't want to go out and spend thousands of dollars on wheels when there's a pretty good chance that the new owner is just going to go ahead and take those wheels off, put something else on, and then sell those wheels. So just buy the stock wheels. And there are some aftermarket wheels that are pretty commonplace for different eras of cars, and so putting those on can make sense. I mean, perfect examples are like your Krager SS wheels, your ET slot mags, or your American Racing Torque Thrust Ds or polished torque thrust. I mean, those are all pretty standard wheels that have stood the test of time over decades. And so going with some of those can be beneficial, but again, you need to know your market and you have to do your market research. And then from there, another factor, of course, is your color choices and your interior color choices. I mean, a color may appeal to you, but it may not appeal to most people that are in the market for the type of car that you're working on. And so you don't want to pick random weird colors that are going to really limit your market. Another thing you don't want to do with their paint is do really expensive, extravagant custom paint jobs that are really going to narrow your market. And you want to do normal, basic OEM type stuff that's going to really broaden the type of market you've got for the cars when you go and sell them. I mean, perfect example, when we were doing our 70 and 71 CUDA restorations, we went through and we're looking at what colors did we like and which colors were popular. Now, when we did the 71 CUDA, we had made a mistake and we had painted it Curious Yellow. Now, it wasn't a mistake from a marketing standpoint because it's one of the most popular colors for that car. The mistake was it happened to be both mine and my wife's favorite color for that car, and it made it that much harder to sell the car because we just loved how it looked. So when we did the 70 CUDA, we took those lessons learned and we looked at for a color that was very popular for that year, but was also not a color that we particularly cared for. And so that's why we painted that one Sublime Green. I mean, it was a beautiful color. The car came out gorgeous and it sold relatively quickly, but we didn't have the same problem that we had with the 71 in the fact that we wanted to keep the car because of the color. Neither my wife or I are big fans of green. If we were going to keep that car, I probably would have painted it B5 blue because that was my favorite color for that car, or Plum Crazy Purple, my other favorite color for that year car. So these are all things you need to be taking into consideration. And then of course with the interior as well, you don't want to be doing some custom wild interior with exotic materials and stuff because it's just going to limit your market on a lot of these collector cars. I mean, if you want to start doing custom stuff and really custom stuff, if you're going to make money on that type of work, you need to be having clients come to you and building cars that they want. And that way you're charging by the hour and for the custom work, because otherwise the custom work, you're generally not going to get the return that you're looking for. So those are some of the big factors. Of course, there are other areas that you're not going to want to be spending huge amounts of money on, like super fancy, expensive, custom, big horsepower engines and things like that. I mean, sure, they're nice and they're awesome and a lot of fun to drive, but at the same time, you're not going to get the return on the investment for those. So just doing stock builds, rebuilds, and things like that definitely help. I mean, there are certain areas where you can make a difference, and if you get some good deals on parts and stuff, sure, it might make sense. But you really need to, it boils down to needing to do the proper market research for the cars that you're building and what you want to get out of it, and then see where the margins are at, or if it makes sense. Because the last thing you want to do is go and start a project that you have no chance of making a profit on whatsoever, because there are a lot of cars out there that you'd be in that situation that you're just not going to make the money on. And then one of the other big factors is how much of the work are you going to do yourself and how much of it are you going to farm out? Because the more work you farm out, that's more loss of your profits that you're going to be at, because you're paying somebody else top dollar to do work for you that you could be doing yourself. I mean, for example, we do almost all of the work ourselves for our project builds. I mean, there's some things that we farm out. Paint, I don't do. I'll do most of the body work, but paint, my skill set's just not there yet. And so that I farm out. That can get expensive depending on what type of paint job you want and who you have painting it. Some cars we've had, like my brother or my dad, paint them, and they've come out great. So that works out really well as also. So you just need to be really careful on what work you farm out and what work you do in-house. So those are my thoughts on when it comes to classic cars, on just a high level ways that you can make money on doing your classic car builds. Now, I'm not trying to tell people not to personalize cars and enjoy them. I mean, that's what you're supposed to be doing in this hobby. That's what I do for the cars that I'm keeping. But if your plan is to make money on the car, you need to be really smart about the choices you make and the market research that you do. So now let's go ahead and change gears a bit and talk about more modern cars. And because it's definitely dicier when it comes to modern cars, because it requires a little more speculation on where the market's going to go, because the trends just don't exist for the modern stuff because they're too new. But there are certain things you can be keeping an eye out for that are going to turn out for ways that'll help out for determining which cars, if you're going to be looking at investment grade cars, because they do exist. I've missed out on a couple of key opportunities in the last 10 years or so. It's just the way it goes sometimes. A perfect example was when I wrecked the 2001 ACR Viper. I had a decision to make whether I got my Dream 96 GTS, which, as you know, if you've seen my other videos, that I did end up buying my Dream 96, which definitely I don't regret. I love that car, and it's gone up in value since I've purchased it as well, so I can't complain there. But the amount of return I could have made, which again, I wouldn't have sold this other car, but at the time when I was trying to decide what to do, the other car I was looking at was a gated F430. And yes, it was a lot more money than the 96 GTS was. It would have required me to stretch my finances a bit more. But in hindsight, it definitely would have been, if I was looking at, for an investment standpoint, would have made more sense. Because at the time, you could pick up a gated F430 for less money than one that was equipped with an F1 paddle shift gearbox, and not much more, but still, it was cheaper. And now, gated F430s, the market has come to the realization that it's the last gated mid-engine Ferrari, and you're seeing this with Lamborghini as well for the gated cars. And there are no more gated cars being produced, and as a result, they're starting to climb, because the F430, when it came to the gated transmission, well, it's hard to gauge on what the exact numbers were, but somewhere between like 10 and 15% of all F430s were gated cars. And as a result, now they're starting to climb in value. I mean, I could have picked one up for probably about 130 at the time, and now they're selling for anywhere between 180 and 200,000. I mean, they're approaching 430 Scuderia prices now, just because of how rare they are, and the market is realizing that their manual transmissions are becoming harder and harder to come by. So things like that I need to keep an eye on. You can see the same thing with like the gated Gallardos and Murcielagos and things like that are all starting to pick up in value, just because people are realizing that that era is pretty much over, with the new modern dual clutch transmissions working so insanely well. So you just definitely have to keep an eye out on what things are doing in the market and what types of cars people are potentially going. Wow, a little distraction there. A beautiful 68 Charger just drove by the opposite direction. Not sure if you saw it in the mirror, but got me a little sidetracked. You don't see those too often running around out here. But yeah, it's definitely harder on the modern cars to figure out what's going to go up in value, what's not. Personally, I have a feeling these SRT4s are going to be going up in value. One rule of thumb that I've heard several times throughout the industry is a car needs to be forgotten before it's going to go and take off in collectability. And that's definitely certainly true in certain cases throughout time. And I think with the SRT4, with how few were built in the first place and how dominant the car was when it came out, and now that there's so few left that are in good, clean condition, I think in the future there's definitely going to be a price increase on their values. So I was glad that I was able to purchase this one when I did. Even though I don't plan on selling it, I'm glad I got one now at the price that I did, where a few years from now when prices could be higher. And so those are my thoughts on modern cars. I'm definitely interested in what your thoughts are below. Have you guys had good results flipping cars, making profits on cars? Or have you been what I've seen a lot of other people talking about, where they just can't make money on cars? I think they're a great investment, but I think it, like a lot of things, there's a lot of risk involved, and you definitely need to be really heavily involved in the market and understanding what the trends are if you want to plan on actually making money on it. But it can be done. I mean, I've literally been doing it for over 30 years with my dad, making money on flipping cars. So, and another benefit we're doing investing in cars, unlike other traditional investments, is you can go out and enjoy them while you own them. So that's definitely a big plus as well. So I hope you found this information useful and video entertaining. As always, if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, give us a thumbs up. And if you want to be kept up to date on my future videos that I do, go ahead and smash that subscribe button down below, and also ring the notification bell so that way YouTube notifies you of my future videos. And I hope you guys have a great Memorial Day weekend, and I will see you the next video.